This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is the president and CEO of K2 Gold, Mr. Steve Swatton. Steve, it's been a bit. How are you?
Very good, thanks, Gerardo. Thanks for having me back.
Well, listen, you had some news that I have to believe is a blessing and a curse. On the one hand, you have significantly expanded the mineralized footprint at what John Robbins has called the best early stage gold camp he's ever seen. We now know that it's a gold copper camp, and we also now know that you have mineralized targets across many new trends that you've discovered here recently. So I say a curse because this looks like something that is just ripe for the taking as far as drilling goes. We know that you've been expecting, a favorable response from the BLM. We know that's ongoing. I don't want to put you in a situation where you have to comment on that too in depth because hopefully we're getting closer. But the news that you just put out yesterday has to be positive in the sense that, yes, it's taken longer to start the drill program, but man, it seems like you're really refining the targets and it seems like you have a lot more than you thought you did.
Absolutely, Gerardo. So what situation happened is last year when we did the drilling and we could see that as we were looking at the chips when they were coming out, we were pretty optimistic we were going to get good results. And obviously, 87 meters of 4 grams is not to be sneezed at. So we were very happy with the results, but of course, we applied for another 30 holes, knowing full well that it would take some time. In the meantime, I basically gave the geologists and the geological staff almost free rein to go and follow up on some other smaller soil anomalies that we've seen in previous work and some of the work ourselves. And these results are, it's the result of them going out and extending the trends. And it doesn't matter what they sort of hypothesize, it came up with gold or copper. What we know here, Gerardo, in basic terms, is on the eastern side of the property, there's about 2.5 kilometers now trend of mineralization, of which only a small portion of it, maybe less than a third, we started to drill. And on the western side, we have what looks to be a sediment-hosted copper and base metal trend with the possibility of maybe a porphyry sitting alongside it. So this is becoming a whole mineralized district, and the geologists just keep coming back with, one sort of significant target after another, which is great. And as you alluded to, our biggest impediment right now is not getting the permit to drill another 30 sites. Now, just to give your listeners an update, it is going through the process. We talk with BLM constantly. We don't see anything that's coming out that is going to impede us, but it's painfully slow. And I think because it's a high-profile project, and quite frankly, there is now another COVID surge down in California. The BLM offices are closed, and everybody's working from home again down there. So everything's taken a little longer than I would anticipate. They take a long time anyway based in California, but I think they're even taking longer. And they're being careful. This project has the potential to be, quite large, as you quite rightly say. We're finding all this stuff. So I think they're making sure that they've got the T's crossed and their I's dotted at this stage.
I'll make sure to include an image of the figures that you shared in the release. I am not a geologist, but if I was, that looks like a Christmas wish list of targets, right? There is gold, there's copper, there's silver, there's lead, and zinc. I can't wait to see the drill bits turning. What metal endowment seems to be the most prolific? Is it the gold and then the copper and then followed by the silver, lead, and the zinc?
Well, it is a zonation. So I would say that what we can see currently, Gerardo, is the gold. The gold is what is driving our program, if you like. But, when you get those such high levels of copper in soils, that copper is somewhere very close. Now, one thing I want to point out, the geomorphology of the area is that on the eastern side, it's kind of elevated. Then you go through a valley and then it's elevated again on the western side. And in the middle of that, there's this huge valley, and we had no idea. It's not soil, it's colluvium. So the only thing we could do is what's called ionic leach, which is you're basically trying to get a sample of whatever is beneath being transmitted through the layers to the surface in what's called ionic soil sampling. It's a slightly different technique. It's not taking the sea horizon. It's a different type of technique altogether. And the results coming out of there are phenomenal, which is leading us to believe that underneath this what we call Upland Valley in the middle there is also mineralized. So I would say the second most common is copper that's coming through now. The base metals we knew about, there's a Pete Smith mine, which you know around was in the 1900s, and these were the old timers when they were working. And it's all a zonation. So you start from the east with gold, then you go through a copper zone, then it kind of looks like a lead zinc zone, and then it comes back into a copper zone. It's absolutely fascinating. And it's all cut by northwest, southeast faults throughout the whole thing.
I know that you're very respectful of the process with the BLM, but I also know you to not be a person that sits idle waiting for approval on things. So I have to imagine that you likely are entertaining looking at other properties in other jurisdictions to diversify the exploration potential on a year-round basis. Would that be accurate?
Very accurate. We're advanced on 2 situations in Nevada right now, and I would say that, obviously I can't really say too much, but yes, we're not sitting idle on our hands here. We've got our eye on 2 different projects, and John Robbins was actually down last week looking at one of them. We like them both, and Jody's come up with a third one, and myself, I'm working with one of the majors on a completely different asset altogether, and this one will be in Utah. So yes, we've got Nevada and Utah that we're looking at right now.
I thought 2021 was going to be a spectacular year for K2 Gold. I premised that on the fact that this amazing property was going to see the drill bit in more significant fashion. That hasn't happened yet. The fact that you're out in Utah and Nevada and still going through the permitting process here leads me to believe and allows me to double down on that prediction for 2022. So wrong so far this year. Let's see what 2022 brings. And it sounds like you and I might be chatting here sooner rather than later.
I really hope so, and I expect it to be. So let's check back in a couple of months. I think it'll be a different picture altogether. So let's call it a date 2 months from now, and it'll be a different story altogether.
Sounds good, Steve. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for that update. We'll talk soon.
Thanks very much, Gerardo. It's been a pleasure.